Chester. These are the old buildings, old brick and timber buildings. The city dates back to the Roman times. It's surrounded by a large wall. The cathedral, the Chester Cathedral. This is we're walking on top of the wall here, the Roman wall.
Oh, I can't tell the difference with the accent.
Interesting stuff around here.
Very interesting. It's the Chester Town Hall Council Chamber. Public gallery up here.
Waterhouse. Waterhouse was mainly famous for his buildings of red terracotta brick, but in this instance he used stone.
This is inside Liverpool Cathedral.
artistic license with artists, isn't it? Because how do you know? I mean, some people say Jesus.
One more down to the cabin. We've got some dancers there. The start of what we'll be dancing. Clapping and moving on this.
S-A-W-R-E-Y, and it was Hilltop Farm. She worked stories for the children, and of course the adults were intrigued. They need their tails as part of their protection through evolution. And it's not in Grasmere, about another 8 miles. Why? Because William Wordsworth, who was a poet laureate, all from Parliament to back him, and they stopped the railway there. And that's got no mortar in. If you have a look how close it is together, it's a real art form. You look up here towards the chimneys on the left, and you'll find the degrees in opposite directions. You see here, these are not old, they're built within the Lake District, but very important. Now, remember I told you before about the Monkey Garden of this hotel on the right, built in 1859. It's a roadway now, but when this was built, this was their garden. Why? Well, and of course the word for a lake from Scandinavia is a mere, and of course Winder comes from Wynyard. There's one of the ferry boats that runs all the way, which they always have in Britain. We're very bad, but you have the silent W, so it's rather Norwich. People often drop the W, which is not very good for English really. But so in London, if you go along, of course, the Strand area where the theatre district is and the Australian Embassy is called the Old Witch, the old trading post. And if you want to look at ankles as ballast, top there, I see the roof up there, owned by the National Trust. And there's a water wheel over there on your left, the glass house. So again, it's a very quaint place. A week or two. Now we either got a Beatrix Potter exhibition coming up on the right. There she is. I say she absolutely loved those sheep. There's a sign up ahead there, Rydal, R-Y-D-A-L. And as I say, if you look up the hill, there's a house actually up there. That's not Rydal Mount, it's the one actually always associated with the Lake District. A great literary figure. We're absolutely delighted to know that they haven't ruined it by building things around the geese who are here as well. Rydal Water, this is known as Rydal Water.
There's a reflection.
I got that line though.
Oswald's.
They're the ones with the white faces, very square, and they're the ones which are the Herdwicks. Remember I told you when they're born they're black and they get lighter as they get older, and they're quite grey when they come out to the top. The swan was right ahead. Now, if you ever read William Wordsworth, he did the famous Wagoner, and he said, "Who doth not know the famous swan in Grasmere?" And there it is coming up on the right hand side. And the swan, there's an interesting story of Wordsworth and Sir Walter Scott, because they were contemporary of each other, and of course top literary writers. Of course Wordsworth is particularly well known for Daffodils. If you're ever doing a sort of valleys all around Scotland, people are just there almost like watching paint dry. But there was two people who used to do a shift, so at least you had somebody to talk to, and they would change every 8 hours and throughout the night as well, just in case anybody was ever going to parachute in. But the first thing ever with strategy for warfare, you always remove your signposts. That's the most important thing. And then the enemy, if they parachute. And oh, there's some of the rams. There's some of the Herdwick rams that you see over there on your left. Brandy or certain wine as well. You don't, even if you get a coupon. So though it lowered a lot, it actually gone up lately. There's several mitigating factors. One, so there's a lock over on your left hand side. If you actually followed it along the banks on this side, so the manor house, it's on the trail where you can go up through the very noble Caldea Cardinal in the late 1950s. Yeah, so of course the one that we think of is the really stuck right in there into the bog itself. Different areas, McDonald's of Glen Cove, you look at down there, and they've even got a place out there, a bunkhouse for walkers. They used to be able to ride up there into the last century, you know, they didn't. And of course it's because down here is where the Campbells massacred the McDonalds in 1692. You can't ride that up outside your dwelling nowadays, but even people still ride today. You ride there, you don't want any hawkers. You know, hawkers, people knocking on your door, you know, offering to do odd jobs. It used to be a thing many years ago. I gather right up, particularly up until well into the 1960s. You know, you get a lot of people who are travellers, who are often out of work. You missed it, Colin.
Looks really good, it's almost further. Still further out there.
It's like the Three Sisters in Australia. Remember the Three Sisters?
The spot known as the Three Sisters in the Scottish Highlands. These are the locks that join the lakes into Loch Ness. start of Loch Ness. These are the locks at Fort Augustus. See the hills of the water into the locks. This is the next level in the Caledonian Lock. Starting to fill up the locks. We're ready for some boats to come up between the two Loch Ness and another smaller lock. This is Urquhart Castle in the distance. This is Loch Ness. And from Urquhart Castle.
I thought she was upstairs, absolutely.
This is a cottage that's standing on the battlefield at Cape. So it was its original days. This is where the various clans faced the British. Stones set up each of the locations where the clans were grouped. Scott, sorry. This is the Craiglin Hotel in Granttown on Spey, S-P-E-Y. This is our room up the end on the second floor.
But you find just so many around Scotland, so many of them have been banned and for several hundred years and some.
This is Blair Athol, the castle of the Clan Murrays. The Flemings are associated with the Murray clan.
Up on the left there is just like this one here, but it's got even more places just up here on the left. So there you are, if you look.
This is St Andrews Golf Course. Back up to the 18th green clubhouse. The old bridge over the watercourse on the 18th fairway. Then looking back up the 18th towards the green and towards the clubhouse.
Heroes of American history. No one even knew where he was buried, would you believe, in 1911. And after investigation, he was found in a French churchyard. But anyway, they got frigates to go from Annapolis in Maryland. It went over to France, and they brought his sarcophagus back, and that's where you'll find him at the Naval College today. But interest, look to the left, you see the jetty down below the bridge, and that's where the ferry used to run. And the big white building at the bottom of the approach to the bridge, that's where Robert Louis Stevenson wrote the famous novel Kidnapped from. You ever read Kidnapped with Balfour? That's where it was written, and it was known as the Hawser Inn.
And was designed by Robert Adams, Scotland's finest architect. The base of the gardens is not too deep, but the further east we get, it becomes more and more deep. We can't do very. I've already mentioned to you, we still have that type of politician here. He is #1 banana. Oh, there it is.
Oh, there.
Yes, on Princess Street. And this is the block on George Street beside St Andrew's Square, where we will be finishing the tour. So you know exactly where you're going to meet your coach again. Go in and visit. It's called the Dome, and gentlemen, it's a pub. It's a pub. So we come down onto Princess Street, the whole regiment, and that regiment, Edinburgh Castle, was there.
This is Edinburgh Castle.
But what you're doing is you're looking up and you look at the flagpole. If you look at the flagpole up there, you come down a straight line down that flagpole. Directly underneath the flagpole there is a small window. Then there's a four square window underneath that, and then the oblong window underneath that. So it's fairly black compared to the rest of them. That's the
Edinburgh Castle, where they have the Edinburgh tattoo.
I know, I did.
Although I did so from below, where you see this Castle Stewart up there with the red jacket, that is the best viewpoint on Edinburgh Castle.
made of Queen of Scots, gave birth to James. Became the King of Great Britain. This is the Great Hall.
Gosh, the word.
Let's get the video first.
See the palace and can just imagine they weren't allowed to do it. So they moved out in 1966 and left that building to the City of Edinburgh free of charge. And you know this, we've never used